Hi, Ted from Blue Forest here, and today we are going to be working on taking some cuttings of seaberry and hopefully rooting these for some propagation. So let's get right into it. Really what I'm focusing on is male seaberries. There's male and female varieties. This is a male. One of the reasons you can tell is these little flower buds. Let's see if we can get a focus. There we go. They're pretty large, and they have multiple little leaf lets there in the bud. I don't know what exactly you call that, but we can contrast that to a female, which I have right here. There's some old fruit on it. If we can get a good shot of one of the buds here, which might be a little tricky. Oh, I wish I could focus a little better, but you can see that the buds are much smaller. There we go. They're much smaller on the female. It's not a foolproof way to sex them, but it definitely does help. So if you don't know what you're dealing with, generally these ones with the much larger flower buds are what you're looking for. Another thing to note with seaberry is often when you root cuttings, you're looking for like the first or last season's growth. It's kind of not the case with the seaberry. You actually want older growth. So you can see here on this branch, all of these shoots are from last year, and that's actually not what I want. That's going to be too thin. I want an older branch, and thicker is the key. So maybe down here would be good. Something that's as thick as your finger is kind of a good rule to keep in mind. I think I'm going to be taking some off the lower portion of this bush, just because where this is located is near my driveway, and I like to kind of keep it back so it's not poking me. And also these branches will eventually get shaded out, so I can use them, hopefully do some propagation with. So first step, get your clippers and lop off a few branches. Before I do this, I should say the timing on this is actually important. It's mid-January now. I'm a little bit behind schedule. Ideally, you want to take your cuttings of seaberry before January 1st. So anytime after the plant goes dormant in the fall until right around that winter solstice. From about Jan 1st on, cuttings you take, they're reported to have less and less likelihood to strike root. So it's important to get on this early. If you're in a climate like myself in northern Minnesota, you got to think about what you're going to do with these cuttings, because we still got several months of winter left. So my plan is to put these in a cold part of my basement, make sure that they stay watered, and if they do strike root and begin to bud out, I'll supply them with some light. But that's the plan. So timing is definitely important. I've done cuttings later in the spring, and I've had some success rooting, although it's been minimal, and I'm hoping this will have a higher rate of success for me. So I'm gonna get to work here, snip some cuttings. So I got my branches selected now. I'm gonna cut them into the size I want. Looking for anywhere for like 6 to 8 inches long, or actually longer than that, I should say. Let's see here. With these, we want at least 6 inches buried. So probably 8 inches is our minimum, up to 12. So 8 to 12 inches is what I'm going to do. Chop them into segments any of the thinner branches like this, you know, too small, too small, too small. Kind of want that finger size, you know, probably up to here. This main branch is what I'm going to use. So yeah, I'm going to get these prepared and then we'll get them in some containers. All right, we got our cuttings to the length that we want. They're all about in that 8-inch to 12-inch range. This one's the thickest and the biggest. I'm just going to go with it. One good thing to remember about any sort of cuttings is always trying to keep the polarity right, which means that the top side of the cutting needs to go up and not get switched around and stuck in that way. Sounds like a no-brainer, but be surprised if you get a whole bunch of cuttings together and they all kind of start to look the same. So just keep them pointing in the way that we need to. So my plan is here, I got these pots. They're probably not as deep as I want, but you know, it's what I got on hand. I guess today's theme is kind of make and do with what you got. But I'm going to just fill these up with a potting mix. I got a bag of potting soil here that is left over. Again, it's not really what I want to use today. It should be fine, but the potting soil that we make here on site is not accessible at the moment. It's kind of frozen, and I didn't prepare enough ahead for this. So we're going to make do. Let's get these stuck in the pots and see what they look like. One more thought here before we get these in. One thing I've read about is how wounding the ends can help roots form. So I'm going to try that in some of these. This is the bottom portion, but you can see right there, I'm just going to go around the base here and kind of scrape this top layer of bark away and expose the cambium layer underneath. And that should help root formation happen. So yeah, one other thing you can try. All right, I had an extra last thought. So, you know, one thing I don't like to use is rooting hormone or other chemical treatments. I try to do stuff naturally. So one little trick I picked up from Sean at Edible Acres is soaking your cuttings in a honey water mixture. So I just did like a tablespoon of honey with some warm water. I'm going to let these soak for 20 minutes or so, and that should supposedly help with rooting formation. While I'm doing that, I just got my little containers prepped in a bucket. I filled up with some water. So I'm going to let that water soak up and hydrate all those. I got one cutting I did without the honey treatment, so it'll be interesting to see if there's a difference or not. But yeah, that's pretty much the process. Once I'm done with my soakings here, I will stick these in and then keep an eye on them as the winter goes on. I'm just going to keep them moist in a cool environment, and we'll see what happens. All right, hopefully that was helpful, and good luck propagating.